Welcome to the Mother May I podcast with Frank and Irene on Strong Island Entertainment. Gee, I hope I didn't make a mistake with these two. They promised me they'd bring in some really good guests. Well, anyway, here's Frank and Irene.
Hello and welcome to Mother May I podcast with Mr. Frank Conniff. I'm Irene Bremis. Frank, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired because, I couldn't sleep last night. I had insomnia. So I feel a little wrecked today.
You should call me when you're like that. I'm always up really late.
Oh, really? Frank, are you serious? I mean, actually, I like the idea of me calling you if I have insomnia.
I'm always up in the middle of the night. You can call me at 3 a.m. and I'll stop. I'll turn the porn off for a minute and,
I don't want to interrupt those intimate moments with yourself, Frank. I really don't want to. But I will call you next time because I felt like, so I couldn't sleep. And Frank, you gave some good advice before we started the show. Your advice to me was if somebody has insomnia.
Because my whole life, I've stayed up late my whole life, like since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I had to watch The Tonight Show, and then I had to watch the Joe Franklin Show after that. That was more important to me than school. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that was the case with me. And I've always loved being up really late at night for my whole life to this day. It's the way unless I have a job, which, luckily I do have, of my own thing going on. That's a job. But what I mean, but like going into an office, which I don't have to do anymore.
Yeah.
Like when I worked on the Kamau Bell show, like that was a daily show. That day started at 8:30 in the morning,
God.
I had to get up for that. But you know what? I always got up in enough time to walk to work, actually, even at that early time in the morning. And then
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't even, because you're really not a morning person. But first of all, I remember being a kid too, Frank, and one of the fondest memories of being a child was staying up late. I loved staying up late. Same thing. Wanted to watch The Tonight Show. Wanted to be like that cool kid staying up. Now, for some reason, I like staying up late. It's the waking up in the morning and have to, like having to just be lucid.
You have things you need to do, like you train people and you might have an early appointment or something like that. I have my own schedule, so I've scheduled it.
You're your own boss, Mr. Conniff.
I do all my writing at night, and that's although this morning I got up at 8 a.m. because my housekeeper comes on Thursdays, and she.
Frank, I've never seen you so happy. Every Thursday, you're just glowing. You're beaming because you have the housekeeper. And it's like reflecting off your skin. It's crazy. I see how happy you are.
My apartment is immaculate, and all of the people who never visit me think it's great.
But wait a minute. So she doesn't come that early, Frank. Why are you waking up so early? What time does she come?
She comes at 9,
Oh, my God, Frank.
Yeah, so I have to get up at like 8 and, take a shower and stuff. And then I go and I go for a walk in Central Park, and it's awesome. But and you know what? I don't think I have to get up at 8 every morning, but I'm thinking like I should do what I do today every day. The first thing I should do is go for a walk before I do anything else, which is the way I do it on Thursdays. But usually I just linger and fuck around on the internet and stuff, and then I go. I go after I eat lunch. Then I go for a walk in the afternoon usually. But now, like starting this weekend, it's going to get dark like really early. So now I might have to change some things around in my schedule.
Change it because if you're anything like me, when that clock turns back. Now, I don't know what happened last year, but I sunk into a fucking rabbit hole. I really did. It affected me profoundly last year and the year before. And I'm hoping this year I don't have that same reaction to that clock back just 1 hour. It's crazy.
People
but
like really say that it's about time that we get rid of that whole thing. And as John Fugelsang has pointed out, the whole thing was for farmers like 200 years ago, you know.
Right.
It kind of makes no sense anymore. And they don't have daylight savings time in Arizona, but they don't have democracy there either. So it's
which is a great segue into our next topic. Ding dong, the witch is dead, soon to be out of office, thank God. So are we feeling optimistic about the new mayor? We're talking about de Blasio. Who else? That piece of shit.
This new guy, Eric Adams, who I voted for with a complete lack of enthusiasm. But Maya Wiley was my candidate in the primary. But
you didn't vote for Stacey Pressman, Frank?
What?
You didn't vote for Stacey Pressman?
Oh, you know what? I love Stacey, but
I love Stacey a lot too. And you know what? Let me tell you this. I did vote for Eric Adams, and I know this is but Stacey, I think I'm really proud of her for doing what she did and seeing it through. It's like no small undertaking. It's like a Herculean undertaking.
I love
Kudos
when people do that. You know, there's another friend of mine. He actually lives in California now, but Ben Kissel. Like 4 years ago, he ran for Brooklyn Borough President, you know, which I thought was
wow. Did you vote for him?
I don't live in Brooklyn, so you can only vote, or I don't live in Staten Island, so I wasn't able to help elect the Republican borough president who was already had to resign because of corruption, the guy you just elected in Staten Island.
Oh my God, I can't even believe this. I know. I had to go vote in Staten Island. I always carry mace because I feel like just wearing a mask is a dead giveaway. Because you walk into the polls there and it says, please have your mask on. Not even the poll workers are wearing masks. And I walk in, I'm the only one, me and any other black person at the polls with so it's very clear. Anyway, I actually have to do a benefit.
Eric Adams, you know, I have mixed feelings at best about him, and he's very, you know, pro-business and stuff, and you know, he wasn't my first choice, but I'd rather have him than Curtis Sliwa, who. Oh
yeah, you mean what is it? He's the guy that came up with or created
Angels,
the Guardian Angels, fighting crime on the streets. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The one thing I would have liked about him is he's a crazy cat person. He lives in a studio apartment and has like 14 cats or something like that.
Oh my God.
I like that about him.
Me too.
But
me too.
He when he voted on Tuesday, he brought one of his cats with him, and then they wouldn't let him bring the cat in the polling place, and they got in a big argument. And I saw the picture of no cat likes being carried around outside in public like that.
No, not at all.
It was really, he was, you know, here I was thinking he was a good cat person, and then here he goes exploiting his cat, you know,
exploiting his cat, exactly.
Even the one thing I liked about him now, I realize is kind of bullshit.
Right, exactly. You don't show up with your cat to the poll. Are you kidding me? That's traumatizing for the fucking cat.
Your cat doesn't want to go anywhere with you. He doesn't want you to carry him around where he has no control and is not in charge of everything. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Your cat is not a prop, okay? And listen, the Guardian Angels, you know,
that's being a prop. Look who's here. Hey, Millie.
Oh my gosh. Hi, Millie. Hi, sweet Millie. Wow, the place really does look clean, Frank. I just got a little bit of a glimpse there. Just a little bit of a glimpse there. It's looking good. It is looking good. So you're right, Frank. I'm down with the prop, but I think that Staten Island overwhelmingly voted for him. At the polls.
Yeah, the only place in New York City that Republicans do well is Staten Island.
Right. They're the only New York City borough that went rogue and unanimously almost voted Trump in. So it's always a difficult thing. I must say it was kind of nice doing a show. I had to do like a benefit show for a firefighter thing last night, which I always get very concerned with. Now, you know that Steve is a retired firefighter. I come from the long line of firefighters on that side, but it's always like a very scary, like, I'm like, oh my God, how is this going to go? You know, this fireman benefit. Anyway, it went pretty well. You know, everybody was great. Everybody had a great sense of humor. And it was nice because I didn't have to pay $30 both ways. No, it's like $15 for the Verrazano Bridge, another $15 to come back, and then another at least $10 in gas. What is that? I'm at $40 for a $20 spot. So that was kind of nice, you know, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what to do, Frank. It's a lot, but that was exciting. So I did that last night. And then I got a procedure on my back. I didn't tell you. I actually had like small minor surgery on my back.
Wow. What was the problem?
Well, this is really attractive, okay? And I'm sure you're going to have a full boner after I explain this to you. I'm pretty sure.
Already there.
You already did. So I had this lump on my back, right? And I didn't know what it was, but it was very disconcerting. It was really sticking out of my back. Very unattractive, really unattractive as well. So I'm very vain, as you know, very vapid bitch.
Well, you always got to check out if you have a lump. You got to go check it out.
Got to go check it out. Exactly. So I went and they removed it. I thought, is it going to be malignant? Is it going to be benign? It turned out that it was a lipoma, which is just fancy for a fat lump on my back. How's that chubby coming along, Frank? Anyway, so there was a fat lump in my back. He removed it. He absolutely removed it. And then he was this doctor, great doctor. I mean, you know how you felt with your heart surgery, just go into a great doctor. I mean, this guy, very little pain. It was a local, but then he showed it to me. I don't know why he wanted to show it to me. And he caught me off guard. He goes, "You want to see it?" And I'm like, what is he referring to? Anyway, and then he showed me the jar with the lump in it. And it was quite gross. But anyway, it's out. I got some stitches and I'm on the mend. You know, thank God it wasn't malignant.
I'm glad you're okay. And I'm glad it's not something serious. I can totally accept just some minor gross thing happening to you. That's fine with me, as long as it's not a serious thing.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, so I'm feeling like pretty good. Like, you know, we got this thing out of my back and I'm feeling good. But another thing I never told you, Frank, I don't know why I never told you this. Maybe I didn't want to be an alarmist, but I didn't tell you that a month ago, not a month ago, 2 months ago. Am I ready to say this? Because I didn't really tell anybody, but 2 months ago, I actually had COVID.
You did?
I got COVID. Yeah.
Wow.
I purposely didn't tell you. I was waiting for the time to tell you, but I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to alarm you, or for whatever reasons, I'm coming out here on this very show to let you know that I actually did get COVID. I think it would have, the vaccination saved me from having severe COVID. I did get sick, but the vaccination, without a doubt, even on Staten Island, my Staten Island doctor called me up and he said, "Irene, the vaccination saved your ass." That's what he said. That's exactly what he said. The vaccination saved your ass.
COVID, after you've been vaccinated, like, what did that feel like? Did it feel like the flu, or what was that like?
Okay, so I got really sick. I got really bad stomach cramps, and I was throwing up for like 5 days, and I had a really high fever. I think I was running a fever of like 104. I got really, really sick, but I feel like I would have died. And then I had lingering side effects. This was like 2 months ago. And then I got lingering side effects from it. And I have no side effects now, but I do feel like I have a little bit of that COVID brain, the fogginess in my brain. But yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine. If anybody was vaccinated and didn't get COVID, which of course could happen, but the vaccination is really great because it helps you from landing in the hospital or dying, which is the greatest thing about getting the vaccination. If you have the lingering side effects, I was talking to some friends who got the booster, and they said that actually completely cleared up any lingering side effects.
What, the booster?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, have you gotten the booster yet?
I haven't gotten it yet because the doctor said I might have antibodies, so there's no rush for me right now, but I am going to get the booster.
Okay,
And
I got mine like a few weeks ago.
yeah, and how did you feel? Any side effects from it?
No, I've never felt any side effects from any of the shots, and I know that I've heard other people have, but for whatever reason, I think because like I probably always feel that way, like the way other people
Always feel like shit.
when they have side effects is how I always feel. So I didn't notice anything.
Right.
But you know what I think is a good point is that like you took the vaccine and you got COVID, and some people will say, oh, that's proof that the vaccines don't work. No, what happened to you is proof that the vaccines do work. Because
Absolutely.
you got COVID and it sucked ass, but it wasn't a life-threatening. You didn't even go to the hospital, right? It was just all at home.
No,
Yes,
I was at home.
Jen Psaki, the press secretary for Biden, she got COVID this past week too.
Mhm.
So you're in really good company. A lot of Austin women who are vaccinated are getting COVID, and it's but
The vaccination, sweetie, is everything. And you know what? I would have landed in the hospital for sure, Frank. I didn't say anything. I was really sick, actually. I actually thought about going to the hospital, but my doctor, Mr. Frank Cardello, everyone, if you ever want to know, he called me up and he said, Irene, he said, you might have even like the vaccination saved your ass. And I really believe it did. I think I would have gotten really sick because the reason I got double vaccinated in the first place is because I have that I have Epstein-Barr and I have asthma. So I was very concerned. So yeah, I'm living proof that it does work. Now, the thing that's interesting is that if you do have the lingering side effects, which I did have from COVID, is that COVID brain, I guess, like I couldn't remember anything. Or short-term memory. I talked to a few people that said that if you do have that, they got the booster and it diminished immediately, like within a couple of days. So that's kind of cool. So I'm thinking about, even though I have the antibodies, I was going to wait, but I think I'm going to get the booster shot too.
Sure. Now, do you have any idea where you got the COVID? Or
I have a huge idea. Would you like to hear the story?
Yes,
So here's what happened. Steve went to visit some friends. He went to visit his friend who's like disabled in a nursing home. And Steve's double vaccinated. And he went with I think 3 other guys. 3 out of the 4 were double vaccinated. But that one guy that wasn't vaccinated actually had COVID and gave it to the rest of the guys. And then they gave it to their families, So that's how it happened.
Steve had COVID too then.
Steve had COVID too. Yep. He was really sick too. But again, not sick like you're going to end up, like in a hospital or,
Right.
It's going to be like a near-death experience, but yeah, he was sick. So anyway, so that was my big secret that I kept from, it felt wrong that I kept that from you, Frank, by the way.
I think you have your right to your privacy, and it's up to you what you want to reveal to people.
Yeah, I just, I also didn't want to come out and say it at that time. I think because people are just looking for a reason not to get double vaccinated at this point. And, the reality is that there isn't any vaccination that's 100% foolproof. Like even if you get the flu shot, there's always a chance you could get the flu. Right. So, but it saves you from getting really sick from the flu.
Exactly. There's
So
overwhelming evidence that vaccinations work. People are being dumb about it. And that's why I think Biden has to ramp it up with even more mandates and requirements that people, I think he should do travel restrictions like immediately. Like you can't get on a plane unless you've been vaccinated.
Right.
I don't think he's doing enough in that area. It has to be really hard ass about it. Because as much as like the police complained that there were going to be like thousands of walkouts, it turned out 34 cops had sick leave because they didn't want to get vaccinated, and they said there were going to be
Right.
thousands of them.
Oh, it was only 34?
Yeah.
It's not
yeah.
the case with the fire department, though.
Did they
I
have
think
enough?
I think much more. I don't know what the numbers are. Do you have any idea? But I think a lot of the fire department walked out. I don't think it's the same case with the fire department, but only 34. I'm glad to hear that. I really am. That's like a small and tiny number. That's it?
That's about the size of the cast of Hill Street Blues. It's not a big deal.
Oh my God, I was expecting something much bigger than that. And my other secret that I've been holding back from you is that I'm a JFK Jr. in disguise. I know, Frank, it's a lot to take in. I want you to just, take it in. I mean, what the hell is going on with that now? I mean, these
that whole
people
rally where people, like hundreds of people at Dealey Plaza in Dallas, were waiting for the comeback of JFK Jr. First of all, why would he come back at Dealey Plaza where his dad was killed,
Yeah, those are triggers for him, no pun intended. Right. It's a trigger for him, no pun.
Yeah, it makes no sense that he'd come back there.
Yeah.
But between JFK Jr. Coming back from the dead and being part of QAnon, and RFK Jr. being a deranged anti-vaxxer, I mean, the Kennedy legacy is not really in good shape these days.
Yep, it's not in good shape at all. And even if
my favorite Onion headline recently was Kennedy curse taking its sweet time with RFK Jr. Which I
oh my God, that is so funny. Oh, I hate the person that came up with that. That is fucking hilarious. And anyway, if he did come back in zombie form, what makes these people think he's going to run with Trump in 2024? These people are blazing with fucking schizophrenia. That is what scares me. Okay.
Yeah, there's mental illness going on in some of these people,
And some of these people, I honestly believe that anybody that buys into this, and I hate to say it, I'm not going to mention any names, but some people that are comics actually bought into that whole drinking the blood of Hollywood. I mean, if you're going to buy into that conspiracy theory, I think that there's something wrong with you. You're delusional.
Well, except that whoever these comics are who are buying into these conspiracy theories and crazy ideas, they're going to have podcasts that are much more successful than ours. That's what's selling. Joe Rogan, has like the biggest podcast in the world. I mean, and my friend, he's my friend. I haven't seen him in a while, but Jimmy Dore, I used to be on his show. He's gone over into that deep end kind of thing.
He has too.
Jimmy, I love you, but he's gone over into that deep end, and he just bought a house in Hollywood for like just under $2 million. I mean, he's so successful with that shit,
So, Frank, what does that say? It scares me because I think about this shit all the time. Like, it's weird because we live in a bubble here in New York City. We fucking do. Even with stand-up, when you go out and you do sets, we're in a goddamn bubble here. Is the rest of the world really, like, do they really think like that? What is it? How is Joe Rogan making $100 million on a podcast?
Well, yeah, he just has a huge following, and people like to believe, for some reason they'd rather believe that taking horse dewormer is a better idea than getting vaccinated. And I really don't understand it. But what I do know is that the media, mainstream media, is very complicit in spreading disinformation.
Yes.
A big example is the Virginia election, where the Republicans made a huge issue about critical race theory being taught in schools, which the mainstream media reported on. And very rarely did they mention that critical race theory is not taught in schools. It literally isn't taught in schools. It isn't being taught in any school It's a whole issue they made up. They invented it. It's a lie. And, places like not just Fox News, but CNN and Politico, and even the New York Times, they just kind of report the story without giving you the context that it's a fucking lie.
And without the context, you don't have you have bullshit. Context is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Frank, I always love that you say that, because I think that people are still under this false reality that like CNN and MSNBC and even the New York Times are like credible publications. Like what source of news do you adhere to? Do you feel like is like the most pristine, where you're going to get actual information?
What I do is I follow a lot of different journalists that I like online on Twitter. I go to their feeds every day, and then name a few so that people know. I'll tell you exactly who. Eric Bollert.
Should do that. Yeah, I can. Okay, Eric Bollert.
I go to him. Amanda Marcotte, I think is fantastic.
I know you love her. Yeah,
she's great. She's a regular on John's show, as is Eric Bollert, and Soledad O'Brien. I'm a huge fan of. Yeah, she's so good that she's not on CNN anymore. That's how fucking good she is.
Right, exactly.
She's not allowed in corporate media anymore, but she has her own media companies that are crushing it.
Really, so, that's great.
So she's inspiring. Parker Malloy, who's a trans writer, is really good. Or she's a writer who's trans, I should say. She's a really good journalist, happens to be trans. And
I'm following a few of these people as you speak. Parker Malloy.
Huh?
Okay. Yep, I followed them. I'm following them as you're talking. So that's great.
And there's also like there's a hilarious guy. I think he works at the Daily Show named Matt Negrin, who publishes really great videos about how screwed up mainstream media is, and he's really awesome. And Josh Marshall, Talking Points Memo, I follow him. I follow Molly Jong Fast, who's really good, and I'm probably forgetting a couple that are really good, but
but no, you've named a few, and that's really great. Because again, I think that people believe that there's like for example, I know so many people that believe that CNN is so great, and I always love the fact that you're calling out CNN, and that it's not CNN, it's MSNBC.
You know what, CNN and the New York Times, like, they have great people within their organization. They have investigative journalists. The New York Times sometimes they run great investigative pieces, but the culture at the Times, their opinion pages, and they slant everything in the Republicans' direction. Everybody thinks the New York Times is this liberal paper. It's bullshit. They slant all their coverage in favor of Republicans, and it bugs me.
And that's terrible. What about, I have the app for NPR, and I listen to NPR. What do you think about NPR?
I haven't, I used to listen to NPR all the time when I lived in LA because I was driving all the time. So I was a very devoted listener, but I don't really keep up with them now. I've heard some things that they've had some reporting that's been a little below par, where they both sides things, but I don't really follow them enough to give a real opinion on NPR.
To give a real opinion. They were your driving. I know they're great when you're driving. Thank God you're not driving, Frank. That's all I have to say. Like, literally, for everyone else on the road. I'm just kidding, Frank. I don't even know how you drive. I have no idea how you drive. You can't
my driver's license expired, so I need to take the test all over again if I ever get around to that. I don't need a car in New York, so I haven't. And I don't know. Now that I'm 65, I'm wondering, should I even drive again? Am I too old now?
No, fuck that, Frank. Of course you should drive again. Maybe you should freaking get your driver's license. I'll take you to the DMV. Let's do this. Of course you should drive. Then you can visit me on Staten Island. I'll pay for the toll.
That's, yeah.
I mean, you're young. 65 is not like old.
No, I don't feel old.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes I wonder about things. But I didn't learn how to drive till I was 40. I went most of my life without. I moved to LA when I was 40, and
from Minnesota, right? From Minnesota.
Yeah, from Minnesota, and I spent about a year in LA without knowing how to drive. Which
how did you manage? Oh my God, buses.
In the pre-Uber era, it was difficult.
Yeah.
So then finally, I put my foot down and said, I got to learn to drive. So I finally got a driver's license. And then I bought a Toyota Corolla.
I was going to ask. I love it. I love your choice of car. I'm sorry. I'm loving you right now for getting a Toyota Corolla. I love Toyotas.
They're great cars. But then a few years later, when I was working on the Drew Carey show, I stepped it up a bit. And I got a Toyota Solara, a red convertible.
Wow, midlife, existential. I love you. You're my hero.
But that's my advice for anyone who lives.
Did you drive around with the top down, Frank? I need to know.
Everywhere in LA, I drove with the top down. That's why I got it. And that's what I was about to say. My advice to anyone who lives in Southern California, you have to get a convertible, because you go out and it's like a really nice day and you're just driving around, and there's, it was one of my favorite things about living in LA was driving around in a convertible.
Well, that's awesome. Amazing. And you went at a dashing 35 miles an hour in your red convertibles.
I was a pretty, I don't know if I was that great a driver. And when in my first few months of driving, I would just be driving and I would have no idea what I did wrong, but I'd hear somebody from another car yell, "Learn to drive, asshole!" With me not knowing what it was they were pissed off about. But it happened a few times. Yeah.
I honestly can't picture you driving, but I would absolutely love it. So, I mean, what happened to the red convertible? This is tragic. That's a gorgeous car. Did you end up selling it?
When I moved from New York, I gave it, I let my friend use it. And then it kind of I don't know what happened to it. It kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Wait, so you never sold it to her? You just gave it to her?
Yeah. It was just if she needed a car, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be using this one.
Wow. See, you're such a good.
And then she called me, and we were supposed to do something about it, and it was some DMV nightmare, and I just never pursued it.
So wait, so I love that you don't want to do the paperwork, and you just gave her a beautiful red convertible. You're a saint.
By the time I gave it to her, though, I had driven it around, and plus I drove it on a few pretty long trips. I drove it to Montana one time.
Oh my God, Frank, let's talk. No, let's not move on from Montana. That's on my bucket list. I really want to go to Montana.
Oh, Montana is awesome. Yeah, I love it there.
Wow. So beautiful. What did you do? Did you stay there or just drive through, or?
A friend of mine invited me there, and it was her wedding. She got married in Missoula, Montana, and my friend Holly, who's one of my who I worked with at the Drew Carey show, and she lives in the Bay Area now, but they got married in Montana, and I drove to their wedding in my car, and then
by yourself. This is amazing. I love it. You didn't have anybody.
Not in my convertible though, but in a rented car. This was years ago, 2003 or so, and I moved to New York. to work at Air America Radio with Liz Winstead, almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
I drove because I had my two cats. In that days, it was Duke and Haley, my two cats, and I didn't, and they were already elderly, so I was worried about taking them on a plane. So I literally drove them cross country from LA to New York when I moved.
Wow. Wait, hold on. You drove cross country by yourself?
Yeah.
From LA to New York?
From LA to New York, yeah.
What the fuck, Frank? That's like insane. That's crazy.
No,
I don't think I ever did that.
You know, and in fact, I wish I had more of those road trips in my life because I loved it.
Wow.
And then
by yourself, though, you're saying you drove. That's
when I moved back from New York back to LA, like a couple years later, because Air America was a big fucking disaster. But by then, unfortunately, Duke, my cat, had died here in New York, and Haley was left, so it was just me and Haley driving back to LA.
Wow, I can't. But that's. I'm really impressed. I'm seriously really impressed. I mean, I was impressed with the red convertible with the top down. That's the Puss Mag too. You probably got a lot of ass with that car. Tell the truth. But now you're telling me you drove country. I was a big avid road tripper, and I've never done that trip. I never drove from LA to New York.
Yeah, well, I that's why I should probably get a license again, because I'd love to do that again. And in fact,
you should do it. Let's road trip.
I have a gig in January in San Francisco. My preference would be to drive to it, but I since I don't have a license, I'm going to take a plane, because in the world of COVID, I would rather drive everywhere than take planes places, you know.
Frank, when in January is your gig?
January 23rd, I believe it is, and it's a San Francisco Sketch Fest. I'm going to be doing a movie riffing show with the other guys from Mystery Science Theater.
Wow, that's amazing. Actually, that's is that like an annual thing? This
yeah, they do it. They do it every year.
That. Yeah, that's like a really big deal. That's great that you're in that festival.
Oh yeah, I've been in the Sketch Fest for several years. The people that run it are friends of mine, and I've had some really great fun time. I just like going to San Francisco. It's such a great city.
I love it. I haven't been there in so long, but I remember once Rachel Dratch actually is always or has been in the Sketch Fest and wanted me to go with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's so cool that you're going there. That's awesome. So that's going to be like a road trip. I wish. Listen, I mean, let me check my calendar. I wouldn't mind doing it. I miss the road tripping. The only road trip that I did.
You're always promising me.
I know. I fucking know.
Never happen.
I'm a dick. I'm just getting caught up with your birthday dinner, and you're already 66. All right, listen. I'm an asshole. I know I am. It's a good thing I had kids. No, imagine if I had kids, Frank. I mean, I did this even with poor Rachel's kid, Eli. He would always ask me, he would say, Irene, could you just check this one episode of like, it was like some show? And I would be like, absolutely. And then he'd be like, so, and I'd be like, haven't had the chance, sweetie, sorry. You know, so it's like a real asshole move. But I know, and it's like, you know what, I'm biting off more than I can chew. I really want to do it though. I really do, because I used to road trip all the time from Wisconsin to New York.
Oh, I've been on the road in Wisconsin quite a bit myself, because I used to do, when I lived in Minneapolis, we used to do one-nighter gigs in like Appleton and
oh my God, Appleton! Stop! No one even knows where Appleton is except for me and you. I think
Somerset, Wisconsin, right at the border, and several other gigs. I love Wisconsin, by the way. It's a beautiful
I love Wisconsin, Frank. I love Wisconsin. You know, I went to school at the University of Superior. There's nothing superior about it. I always have to preface that, just because I just wanted to get away from my family. I never finished any, but anyway, the point being, I was right there. I was right near Duluth. So we would often go to Minneapolis all the time, you know?
Yeah, well, Minneapolis is a great, great, and also, Cinematic Titanic, the Mystery Science Theater show I toured with. We did Milwaukee often. We were there once or twice a year when we were together. So that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure you killed there. I just love it there. Plus, it's so pretty there.
It is. It's really and I've been around the Midwest a lot because, like I said, I did one-nighters in North Dakota, in Iowa, Nebraska. If you did a gig in Iowa, you'd say, "Oh, you're from Nebraska? Well, we'll talk real slow for you." If you did a gig in Nebraska, you'd say, "Oh, you're from Iowa? Well, we'll talk real slow for you." But I, in a lot of that Midwestern, like North Dakota, like the scenery, it can be actually quite soul crushing because it's nothing. It's flat and there's nothing to look at for miles.
Nothing, desolate.
And I used to do the drive from Minneapolis to like Bismarck, which is a long drive, and there's no scenery the whole time. But once you get into Wisconsin and parts of South Dakota too, there's really beautiful scenery around, and Minnesota, of course.
And Minnesota, yeah, no, you're right. It is soul crushing. Those flatlands with those big fucking windmills, and not even windmills. Those things that look like cows. I don't even know what they are. The towers, right? Yes, it can be. But then I was stoned the whole time.
The silos, for the for the grain or whatever.
Wait, what is that called? I never knew what that was called. What is it called?
A grain silo or something? I don't know.
A grain silo? I don't know what they are. But anyway, it was soul crushing. I like that you said that. But I was always smoking pot when we were on these drives.
I was sober by the time I did those gigs, unfortunately.
But I loved it. I mean, I love the Midwest so much, and I missed it so much. I miss the people in the Midwest like crazy.
Midwestern people are great. And I grew up in New York. I never had the only thing I knew about Minneapolis was the Mary Tyler Moore Show. That was it. That was all I knew about Minneapolis. And I never thought I would end up there. And then when my family did an intervention on me, they sent me to treatment there. That's how I ended up there.
Wait, so your family did an intervention on you? What did they like? What they just what was that like? Because I have a friend that just recently did a family intervention, and I want to know what yours was like. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to turn this freaking dinging down. I'm afraid I'm going to turn off the sound. Okay.
Well, because I, as you know, I had a drug problem. I had an alcohol problem.
Yeah.
So they.
But like, who was part of the intervention? Your brother, your sister?
All of my brothers and my sister and my mom, and then like a facilitator lady who worked at some organization, and so they very compassionately said, "Frank, you have a problem. Get the fuck out of town. Leave now. We're fucking sick of your shit." So
Frank,
get out of town. And they actually had, I'm not making this up, they had the plane ticket at the intervention. So I couldn't even go home. I went straight from the intervention with my brother Rex, God rest his soul. He accompanied me to Minnesota on the plane, just in case I was going to drink on the plane, which I didn't. And then he dropped me off there, and then he turned around and he went back.
Oh my God, he did that for you. That's a loving brother, It really is. People think
absolutely was. He was great.
To do that, I love the fact that they thought you couldn't even refrain from drinking on the fucking plane. That's
a very common thing, I think, what they think with alcoholics. And but you know what? My psychology, though, was that I had no intention to drink on the plane because I knew I was ending up in treatment. And my thinking was, I don't want to start drinking because I know I'm going to have to stop drinking,
Right.
That made it unappealing to me, the fact that I would have to get to a point where then I couldn't have any more. If I thought we were just going to get to Minnesota and I could keep drinking, I probably would have drank on the plane.
Well, it's so, you know what's so weird, Frank? You're just such I've only known you sober. It's really hard for me. And we talk about this a lot. This obviously, I know that you have a drinking and you're a recovering alcoholic and you're and you had a drug problem. But for me, it's like, you had a plane ticket ushering you out of town. I need to know, how bad was Frank Conniff? What the fuck would warrant you having a ticket at the intervention? Like, what crazy shit did you do that the family was like, no,
I didn't do any crazy shit, I swear. You know, I was just not functioning. And they were all worried that I was going to die or something.
Right. Okay. So that's what it was. They were worried.
That's what it was. It wasn't because I don't have any crazy stories about my drinking and drugging days. It's so uninteresting. It's so boring.
Right.
I just got loaded until I passed out. That's
right.
All. There's no, you know, people I've heard in 12-step meetings, they talk, they fired Uzis at me when I was trying to cop drugs, and then I had a high-speed chase. With, you know, none of that shit happened.
That for you.
You know.
So when you went to recovery, like when you got that ticket, I love that your family did that for you. It's so sweet. And then they gave you the ticket and you went to recovery. Like, what was that like for you? Was it like so hard for you to continue? Like, how long were you in recovery?
I was, I got to this place called Twin Town in St. Paul, Minnesota.
I love St. Paul. Yes.
St. Paul is great. And, you know what? It's really a weird thing. Like, from the moment I got there, like, I was just into it. I was like, okay, I know my life is all fucked up. I'm not achieving anything that I want to with my life. And now here I am in rehab, and I'm ready to just do this, you know. And you know, and then I just never took another drink or drug again. And I
wow,
I listened to what they told me and I loved rehab. I loved the community of it. I loved the friendship of it. I had a really great counselor there, and I was there for a month. And you know, the thing is if they didn't make me leave, I just would have stayed there forever. It was so safe and comfortable and structured. And so I went from there to after a month, I went to a halfway house.
Halfway house. I was going to say a halfway house. Yeah.
Called Progress Valley in Minneapolis, and that was all dudes, you know, and that you know, when I first got there, I was like, I just want to be back in the treatment place. But that was, you know, that turned out to be really good too, and that also had a really good sense of community to it. Just about everyone there relapsed the minute they got out. But
right, yeah, good for you.
But I was like one of the few who
right. It seems weird, but when you hear the word halfway house, I was going to say you went to a halfway house. I feel like they need a more something a little more colorful, or halfway house sounds so rigid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But and it sounds like too, like something you go to after prison or something.
Yeah, after prison, exactly. Like now you're in prison. But what was that like? So did you continue to get like the counseling?
Yeah, well, I was in there for 3 months, and and when you were there, part of the deal was you had to go get a job while you were there, you know.
Oh.
So I went to this place in Minneapolis. I don't know if it's still there, Dolphin Temp Agency, and they had like a ton of loser jobs they could give to people every day. So I got like these temp jobs, like working in factories and stuff, and you know.
I can't. You're blowing my mind right now, Mr. Conniff.
What?
You're blowing my mind. I'm picturing Laverne and Shirley. I can't wrap my head around this. Wait.
Then, no, but the best job that I had there was the racing park in Minnesota. Canterbury Downs, it's called. And the best job I had there, and I'm not making this up, was going to Canterbury Downs and shoveling horse shit in the barns, because it was outdoors. It was nice, you know. It was different from being inside those factories and stuff. Like, I like that much better. But what ended up happening was I did get a regular job that wasn't temp, not to brag, but then I got hired at Arby's.
Okay, then you got hired a mystery meat. That's what we call it. Those sandwiches were so damn good. I'm going to tell you, wait, so you were shoveling dung in the farm, and then you went to shoveling dung in the fucking writing room.
Yeah,
Sweetie,
well, making dung that people could eat at Arby's. And then what happened was,
so at this point, wait, I have a question. At this point in time, were you doing comedy at this point in time or not?
Not yet. I started like when I got out of the halfway house,
Okay.
and I was working at Arby's. The morning shifts, by the way, like 6 a.m. till 11.
Dedicated.
So my sleeping schedule in those days was 3 to 6 in the afternoon and 3 to 6 in the middle of the night, you know, because I had to get up to go to Arby's. But I started doing comedy. There was a place in Minneapolis called the Ha Ha Club that was non-alcoholic. It was a cabaret place. It's a comedy club. And
non-alcoholic? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, they didn't serve
Wow.
liquor there. So it's like kind of a perfect place for me to go.
You.
And I went there for like a couple of months, and it was fun. But there was the big club in town was called the Comedy Gallery. And that's where like all the headliners like Seinfeld and Leno and Roseanne Barr all came in and played. And they had an open mic there. And I was hesitant to go there because they served alcohol. And but then I remember I was at like a party of other 12-step people, all really nice people, but I was so fucking bored out of my mind that I said, I've got to find other people that have similar interests to me in show business, you know, like I have to find people I can talk to the Three Stooges about, you know.
Yeah, right.
And so then I went to like the Monday night open mic at the Comedy Gallery, and the other comics there, they were really nice, and I remember I met like this guy Paul Dillery there that first night there. He ended up becoming like a lifelong friend of mine. Mm-hmm. And it was just very welcoming. It was like you know, my higher power telling me that it was okay to be there, you know. And then not long after that, Liz Winstead, who was already a headliner in Minneapolis, she came to an open mic the week she was headlining, and it was the first time I'd met her. This was like 1986, and she said, "Oh, you're really funny. Do you want to MC my show this weekend?" And so that was like my first real gig ever. That wasn't an open mic. Was being the MC in Liz's show, and then. There was this guy, Scott Hansen, who unfortunately just recently passed away. He was like the comedy czar in Minneapolis, and he ran the Comedy Gallery, and he could be kind of a gruff person to be around, but he did take a liking to me. And so like from that first night, when I opened for Liz Winstead, like then I was at the Comedy Gallery every night after that for years, like tearing tickets, seating people, emceeing shows. And that's how I learned how to do comedy, you know?
Well, that's amazing. You know, it's so important. Like, I don't like emceeing now. I hate it, despise it. But the truth of the matter is when I started doing comedy, that's all I did was MC. I think it's so important to start out, but it's amazing. It's almost like, it's what?
Great training to be a beginner comic and have to open a show, you know, and it's like the most difficult spot in the show, and that's why it's very good for you to do it.
Absolutely. I always say the MC, it's easier to headline than it is to MC. I really think so, because you not only have to be funny and have great jokes, but you simultaneously have to connect to the audience. Frank, this has like been the most interesting. Never got like seriously, fuck our guests. I need to know what's going on with you. This is like amazing. And we haven't even gotten into, we're out of time, but I still have questions like, how, like, it seems like, you really had a prolific career writing and still do, you do so much. And it sounds like you just started from like ground zero on this. You probably ended up like working for Kate later on in life. Is that what happened? Like after emceeing?
Well, yeah, after I emceed, and then I eventually middled, and
How did you end up writing though?
Oh yeah, the writing. Well, that was something I always wanted to do, but the way I broke into TV writing was based purely on luck, just the luckiest thing that could have possibly happened to me, to be living in Minneapolis, and for people who I knew, like Joel Hodgson and Mike Nelson and Trace Beaulieu, people who were friends of mine already, who were making a TV show in Minneapolis called Mystery Science Theater 3000 that they sold to the Comedy Channel. And then I was able to get a job there. They just fucking hired me, a job. They
hired you as what? Just like immediately hired you to be on, or was it like some sort of...
My friend Jay Elvis Weinstein was already on it, but he, after one season, he left. And so they had an opening. And Mike Nelson just called me up. I remember exactly where I was. I was in a hotel I was at the Westward Ho Hotel in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Sounds like a jizz factory. I like it.
Yes. And he called me on the phone in the hotel room, and he said, "Frank, there's an opening on Mystery Science Theater. We got picked up for another season. Do you?" And that's how I got the job. So the whole way I broke into the whole profession of writing for TV was, the start of it was just luck, just pure serendipity, and
that's unbelievable. And
I'm still making my living from it. That's how I make my living to this day, is from that.
I mean, and you know what? We're gonna wrap this up in a nice bow. I'm gonna say that all of this was possible from that one plane ticket ushering you out of fucking town.
Oh, absolutely. Sobriety made it all possible. Made
it all possible.
If I hadn't been so fucked up, like I could have been a success in New York stand-up comedy, but I didn't have my shit together, I could have risen in that world and had a whole different trajectory, but I think I would have been fine, but I just, and that's why it's great now to be friends with New York comedians that I would have met all that time ago,
Right. It's so crazy. Wow, that's amazing. Anyway, thanks for sharing, Frankie boy. That was like incredible. We told some secrets. We got the inside scoop on Mr. Frank, and it doesn't happen. This landing from this amazing luck that happened. It's like, this really is like a miracle. Like you said, serendipitous that this happened. But anyway, thank God, because there's only one TV Frank, sweetie. So whatever, okay? It was supposed to be yours the whole time. Anyway, okay, so we're out of time. Next week, we have comedian Karen Bergreen on the show, everybody. Going to be a great... Do you know her, Frank?
I don't think I do know her.
Well, you're going to love her. Trust me, you guys are going to love each other. All right, so do you want to plug anything before we go?
Next Tuesday, November 9th, 8 p.m. is the next show that Trace Beaulieu and I are doing, a movie riffing show. It's $10. Go to Eventbrite, type in the Mads, and we're riffing the classic of world cinema, Voyage to the Planet of the Prehistoric Women.
All right, I love it. Oh no, I love it. And Follow me on Twitter at Irene Bremis 13. All my shows are going to be posted. Actually, Laugh Boston, I'm taping another album. If you're in the area, January 9th, please stop by. It'd be very embarrassing if I'm taping the audio and taping an album to like 4 people, Frank. As you well know, it's very sad. Very sad. So Frank, I'm going to see you on Wednesday, and I'll see the rest of you on next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mother May I podcast with Frank and Irene on Strong Island Entertainment. Check us out next week when Frank and Irene sit down with, you know what? I don't know what these two are going to do next, but we'll see you next week.